Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the 10th Lake County Film Festival. This is the Q&A session for Ukraine shorts. And I'm very excited to have Roman Blazon here from the film Enter Through the Balcony. Hello.
Hi, Ned. Glad to see you.
It is great to see you. As I mentioned just a moment ago, in a lot of ways, this film is responsible for, first off, I should say, this shorts film program is one of my favorite things that I got to do. One of my favorite programs I got to put together, which most of the programs just kind of fall in place. I see this film and I see this film and I go, hey, these go together. But given that your film is a substantial film, lengthwise, 26 minutes, that's a good foundation for me to build a 45. I shoot for 45 minutes for the short program, and so I already had a large chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really enthralled when I first saw the film. I actually posted on Facebook when I saw it. I said a lot of people tell me that I watch a lot of films that are about very strange and specific things, and I said I think probably none more strange than balconies, in the Ukraine. How did you decide to make a film about the balconies there?
It was random. It was fatum. Balconies it's one of those things. Foreigners, then they come to Ukraine. They see them, they find them, and they identify balconies they say, wow, it's awesome, you have those crazy balconies. But Ukrainians, they hate them. Most of Ukrainians, they hate balconies. They hate balconies of their neighbors. They hate balconies which are different in sizes, in colors, in shapes, in materials they were built, because most of the urban people living in the urban area, we love the old buildings, we love architecture. And then you take a look at your building, you see that the building is look like a mess because of balconies. So that was the starting point. I had a thought that, look, I want to know what's behind that. It's really easy to hate. It's really easy not to understand things that you don't know where they came from. So I just started asking my friends, historians, architects, anthropologists, city planners, people who work in the city council, and the answers were really different, and in the same time they were about the same idea, about people who were trying to make the apartments made in Soviet Union, in former Soviet Union, just a bit more cozy, a bit more comfortable, and it becomes more and more story about people than story about architecture. And in the end, you you see the movie.
Hopefully the people that are watching this have seen the movie. I will tag this with spoilers. I don't know if that's necessary. I feel like I'm not sure where to go next. I have a couple different thoughts, but why don't you tell me about your history? Do you have a history of interest in architecture, history, and what is your history in filmmaking as well?
Wow. That's actually my first documentary short. So I was born in Donetsk. It's eastern Ukraine, and now it's a war zone. I was born in a family of a coal miner, and I was uh, I was raised with with a tough values, like it's industrial region of Ukraine, like coal miners, plants, etc. So I got my degree in finance. I spent 6 years in bank, and then I start I was a general manager of an energy trading company with a head office in Geneva, Switzerland. So I spent like 6 or 7 years there, and then I just realized that's enough. That's enough. I can't do this anymore. I can survive this like world of meaningless. And then war came. I mean, so many things made a mess, and it was 2014 to the end of 2013. So I quit my job. The war started in the beginning of 2014, and I almost become a DJ. I almost become a bartender. I almost become just traveler. I spent a year traveling around the globe, like in Asia, in Europe, in Middle East, and then I just found a passion in filmmaking. I met a friend who was a DOP, like the super cool cameraman, and we start making commercials for Ukrainian companies in 2015, and then in 2016 we understand that we love commercials with an angle from the documentary filmmaking. That's it.
Cool. So you wanted to make some films, and then you stumbled upon this story.
Yep.
What do you think? What do you think people should be able to learn from your film?
Well, I mean, I'm honest with myself and with people who watch my film. It's a pretty simple. The film has pretty simple structure. It's almost talking heads and the architecture, facades. But in the core, the idea I was trying to expand, to give a life. The idea was it's pretty easy to not understand. It's pretty easy to hate your neighbor. It's pretty easy to hate something different from you. The only way to make like peace with yourself and peace with outer world is to get a little know about what you hate. I mean, for me, this film had a therapeutical effect. So while I was making this film, I was healing myself. I was healing from the traumas of my childhood, of the traumas of the war, the traumas of the lost the home, and etc. I mean, for me, this film is a love letter to people. It's a love letter to Ukraine. It's a love letter to architecture. It's a kind of you're trying to find your pathway to understanding your society, to understand your country, to understand the situation where you are, and then you understand where you are easily could understand where you need to go. So maybe it's too much complicated, but that's
What do you think architecture says about a society?
everything. I mean, everything. That was the discovery for me that architecture, it's, I mean, before enter through the balcony, we made this super short documentary about Soviet modernism architecture, and it was like, wow, really? You mean that this architecture oppressed people? You mean that this architecture made people feel small and powerless? I mean, it was like, I mean, I was raised up in a town in the eastern Ukraine. It's industrial town. I was raised up in a family of a miner, so maybe it's pretty simple for understanding like people with a great education who were raised up in like in big cities. But for me, I mean, I was more than almost 40 years old, and I just got this idea that architecture makes, shifts, and shape our lives. So architecture for me, it's not just the shape of buildings, and it's shape of ideas. People like architects with brilliant ideas shape our lives and make us live the way they think we have to. So, and it still works. I mean, it still works.
So I'm not the most traveled person, but as I mentioned, I love to learn about new things, and film is how I generally learn those things, and documentaries, narratives, everything. But even for me, as the start of as the end of last year and the beginning of this year, as I mentioned in my introduction, Ukraine was the one country most on Americans' lips. Obviously, it was replaced by China
Yeah.
when coronavirus came out. But for a few month period there, your country was the one country that was most in our news. And I really did not know much about it. And I would feel that the average person here does not know much about it. What we know is, besides what was going on with our impeachment, I think for the most part is that you declared independence, and that there's disputes going on right now. And when I watched your film, I felt like I understood your people so much more. I felt like the balconies showed us why you declared independence. It showed us that you were potentially always an independent. The balcony seems like a way for you to protest and get your independence. And that was the main reason, that I wanted to put this program together. So feel free to comment on what I said first, I guess.
That's a brilliant idea. I mean, that's a brilliant idea. People who are in my film, they all are independent. I mean, they feel free. And the zone in their apartment, there they feel free the most, it's balcony. Because balcony gives them the chance to show who they are. They could glaze them. They could put renovation, they could change the shape, etc. I mean, so and people, and that's actually the interesting, one of the most interesting things in this story, that people in the Soviet Ukraine, they fought for their independence, they fought for their right to change their life inside their apartments, and the balcony was that like rebellious part of the apartment they were fighting for. So yeah, that's pretty interesting idea, and I thank you so much for. I mean, you've seen this, and that's make my heart.
So to me, the idea was that rebelliousness was always there. That
Yeah.
that is who you guys are as a people, and it was only circumstances that made you able to declare your independence that was that. But you were doing that much before that, you know.
Mhm.
So you never really overtly say that in the film. Did you think people would understand automatically, or did you think was that your thesis? Did you think of that as you were making it, and why did you decide to not just explain that to outsiders?
You know, I love documentary filmmaking, and one of the most my favorite things that you could make something really complicated. You could put like really complicated ideas in your film, and people around the globe, they will read from one point of view the same ideas, and from another they will discover something really important for them. And I mean, that's an amazing thing that uh, people could find more and more layers, more and more than more than you put inside your film. So that's actually what I always do in our commercials, in like production minimal movie I'm running. We do documentaries, we do commercials, we do political ads. So, and I always try to make, not to make like clear statements. I always try to make something you could read like in different perspectives. So
I felt like you you were presenting a level, and I felt like you were leaving it for people to understand that lower level. And for me, as someone who likes to take filmmakers and their films and show them to people, I felt like you were putting it in my hands to tell other people, to give them the context, which was, why I wrapped this whole program up. And I thought Kalchaka went really nice with it as well, to kind of show, another situation where basically, people didn't have something, and so they just found whatever pieces of things that they could put together, and they made something out of it, which is so genuine. I was actually very shocked when we started this interview, and you told me that people hated the balconies, and my thesis that of independence made me feel. I was wondering an hour ago when I was thinking about this conversation that we were about to have. I was trying to figure out what we had in America that would be like your balconies. Something that we could use to illustrate, a thing that we had that we could use to illustrate. And I did not come up with anything. I was assuming that people there were already equating their balconies with this sense of independent spirit and this sense of protest and rebellion. Why do you think people there don't understand it either? Or didn't understand it? Why would they hate it? Do they understand that? I'm shocked that what feels like such a large and visible part of your culture, it's clearly visible. I mean, cultures have things that are visible and invisible. And I can't imagine you have anything more visible than balconies that you would see every day. So you have what we think potentially is a visible sign of protest, of independence that has led your country potentially is a sign of what has led your country to independence. Why don't people know that?
Well, Ned, you asked such a complicated question. First of all, look, people hate. That was a part of the rebelliousness of this film inside Ukraine. I mean, for people around the globe, they see the film, they feel love we put in our film to all the people, to all the balconies. But in Ukraine, it's so different. People hate balconies. Like people in the newspapers, you could read articles like, look at that balcony, look at this, they change it, one more ugly balcony, etc. Like in TV, at TV, you could in the news, you could find like small videos that look, this balcony made this building look ugly, etc. So I mean, for Ukraine, I put all my love to Ukraine. I put all my love to people who we've been shooting. Like every person, I really do love this person. I do really feel like I feel what they feel when they renovate their balcony. So it's, and actually sorry, actually the beginning of your question, why people in Ukraine hate balconies, I think that it's the results, it's the totalitarian past. People
Okay, yeah. Wait, so
yeah.
Okay. When you said people hate the balconies, you don't mean people on the street, your friends and people you know. Is that true?
No, I mean, I mean, even my friends, it's unpopular point of view to love balconies. It's unpopular. If you say that I love those different shapes of balconies, you will look like an idiot in Ukraine. I mean, people don't understand what do you like. It's, I mean, I just know like two people, they are architects, and they say we love balconies because it's postmodern, it's our heritage, but they are professionals, you know. They know that it's our real heritage, it's our real message to the world, and they know that from the professional point of view. But ordinary people, like educated people, they hate. The more people educated, the more they hate those balconies.
Do those
And
educated?
that's the problem, because you know that our totalitarian past, it doesn't release us from it. And the most totalitarian, I mean, one of the characteristics of totalitarian regime, then you hate something that is different, you know. Then you see something different, you don't understand it, and you hate it. You want everything to be like in line, everything to be the same, like all buildings. I love like architecture. Kiev is a wonderful city. it's an amazing city. I really I'm. It will be. I'm begging you to come to Kiev. I'm begging all the people who watched my film, come to Kiev. Take a look at Kiev in the morning, in the evening. It's an amazing city. I love it, and I love architecture of 19th century, of 20th century, of 18th century. They have churches from 14th or 13th centuries. I mean, it's an amazing city, but people say that look, balconies, they changed architecture. We have to turn it back. We have to make buildings look like they used to look before, like in 19th century or in the beginning of 20th century. And it's not a freedom, it's not a democracy. It's not a democracy. Then you say that you have to ruin those balconies from the middle of century, and you have to make the building look like in the beginning of 20th century. I mean, it's our heritage already, and those balconies, they tell the world more about us than our buildings from the 90s on, from the last 10 years. So I mean it's our heritage, and we could love it, we could hate it, but when we understand that we are those balconies, they are this country which produced those people who renovate those balconies. We are those people. So then, and from this point, I think we could move forward, and we could be more democratic, we could be more free, and we could be a part of the free world.
Well, it told me more. Your film told me more than I've never ever known before about your country. I think through the lens that you gave it is just fantastic. It reminds me, the word I just keep coming back to is an independent spirit. Your desire to be who you are. It reminds me. The balconies remind me of Jimi Hendrix playing the Star Spangled Banner. Well, anyway, it has been great chatting about all that. What's next for the film? Have you played many festivals? Are you on your way to play a bunch of festivals?
We already. Sorry, you mean plans for enter through balcony? Or
yes.
We just like in the end of our festival circuit, so we are planning to release it online in the beginning of 2021. I mean March or April 2021. So this film was supported by Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, and they covered like 90% of all the costs.
Yeah.
And our contract says that we have to release it online, so it will be in the like March or April 2021.
That's great. I mean, we'll post all about it, and we'll post this conversation, which will be saved for everyone to watch after they watch your film when it comes up on Vimeo or whatever. What are you working on next?
We already started in November. No, in the end of October, we started a new project about females in cybersport. I mean, it's pretty interesting, idea. It's pretty interesting world. It's another universe, cybersport, cyber games, like cyber economy, cyber ecosystem. So, and I'm pretty curious. People, I mean, I know that people in States know about Ukraine because Joseph R. Biden Jerry's son.
Yes, right.
Hunter.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Because of the Giuliani, because of our corrupt presidents and etc. But they know Ukraine about. They know Ukraine regarding Ukrainian women as well. I know that. I know that. So and
are you looking at a world? Are you looking at a world scope of female cyber sports, or just in Ukraine?
That's interesting question, because regarding like the physical world, there is there is Ukraine and Ukrainian architecture or etc. Regarding this cyber world, you could talk about females of Ukrainian origin, but that will be a story with no countries, with no background. And actually, that's like the story from the Greek tragedies. It's a story about finding yourself, to know who you are, and what does it cost to be yourself in today. Then, like for example, the age of uh, at the age of 25, most of cyber sportsmen, sport women, they are finished. And what it's like today to be 22 and to know that in 2 or 3 years you will be done, and you have to have plans for the future. Then you are 21, 22, or you have to change your life. Then you are 25, not 50, not 60, nor 70. And I mean, I think that's the idea that's which could be interesting for a person in Chicago, Nigeria, like China and Brisbane and somewhere else. I mean, it's like so much universal. It's about to be yourself and what it's like to be a woman today, what it's like to be, what does it cost to be yourself in this cyber world.
Cool. Well, I look forward to checking it out for sure. I hope our audience
We'll
does
let you know.
well. I hope everyone has a rest of a great festival. And thanks so much for sharing your story and your film with us.
Thank you, Ned. Thank you. Thank you. You are making. I just want to thank you for making this festival.
Yes.
It's a lot for me, like for independent filmmaker, to be invited and to be a part of your festival. And I wish you a good health. I wish you recovery. I wish you so many years of Lake County Film Festival.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in a couple hours with our next Q&A.